793 AD, June 8th, the island of Lindisfarne, northeast coast of England. The monks inside the monastery do not hear the ships coming. The longships move without sound. Their prows cut the morning fog. The hulls ride so shallow they look like they are floating on the surface of the sea. And then the men climb out. What happens next gets recorded in every chronicle written for the next 200 years. The burning, the screaming, the altars stripped bare, the monks dragged to the water's edge. The monastery of Lindisfarne, one of the most revered sites in all of Christendom, reduced to smoke and ash in a single morning. Europe has just met the Vikings. For 2.5 centuries, Europe tells this story. The story of the savage, the story of the barbarian from the frozen north, the story of men who worship violence and burn the world for sport. But here is what that story gets completely wrong. 3 years after Lindisfarne, Viking traders are standing in the markets of Baghdad. They carry silver scales, they negotiate prices, they speak through interpreters with Arab merchants from the Abbasid Caliphate. They are not burning anything. They are calculating exchange rates. These are the same people, not their cousins, not a different tribe. The same Norse commanders who organized the destruction of an English monastery are now operating commercial routes that stretch from the Arctic Circle to the Persian Gulf. 4,000 miles of controlled commerce. In this documentary, you will witness what historians now understand. The Vikings did not want to see the world burn. They wanted to buy it. And the terror, every raid, every burning city, every ransomed king, was not fury. It was a business model, executed with the cold precision of a monopoly. The official version has endured for 1,200 years, and it is hard to argue with. The evidence is overwhelming. June 8th, 793 AD. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle records the moment with visible horror. Unusual lightning, dragons in the sky, portents of disaster. And then the Norse ships appear off the coast of Northumbria. Lindisfarne falls. The monastery of Iona falls the following year. By 795 AD, Norse raiders are burning the Irish coast. The damage is real. The brutality is real. And the terror it generates is absolutely real. A monk named Alcuin of York, one of the greatest scholars of the 8th century, writes to the surviving clerics of Lindisfarne. His letter survives. You can read it today. The anguish in every sentence is not metaphor. He writes that never before has such terror appeared in Britain as they have now suffered from a pagan race. He is not exaggerating. Consider the scale. In 820 AD, Norse raiders attack the coast of Flanders. By 830 AD, they are in the Loire Valley of France. By 835 AD, they sack the city of Dorestad in the Netherlands, 4 times in 4 years. By 841 AD, they winter on the River Seine. By 843 AD, they establish a permanent base on the island of Noirmoutier off the French coast. They stop leaving at the end of summer. They never go home. Every monastery between Scotland and Spain becomes a military target. Every river in Western Europe becomes a potential invasion route. Kings build walls, bishops pray, coastal towns are abandoned. This is the image that survives. The horned warrior, the burning village, the terror from the sea. Every single piece of that image is true, but it is only the surface. Because beneath the burning, underneath the terror, something else is operating. Something no monk was positioned to record. Something no European king wanted to admit. Something so calculated and so systematic that it would not be fully understood until archaeologists began digging in Swedish soil 900 years later. And what they found there changed everything that history thought it knew about the Viking Age. To understand the hidden machine, you have to start with a boat. Not just any boat, the most consequential piece of engineering in the medieval world. The Viking longship is, by every modern assessment, the 9th century's equivalent of a stealth fighter jet. It is not impressive because it is large. It is impressive because it is small. Specifically, it is shallow. Impossibly shallow for an ocean-going vessel. The Gokstad ship, one of the best preserved examples, discovered buried in a Norwegian mound in 1880, measures 76 feet long. Its keel runs 57 feet. But its draft, the depth below the waterline, is less than 3 feet. 3 feet. A man can wade into water that deep. Think about what that means. A ship that can cross the open North Atlantic, navigating between Iceland and Greenland in winter storms, also has a draft shallow enough to glide up a river. Not just any river. The Thames, the Seine, the Loire, the Rhine, the Volga, the Dnieper. Every inland waterway in the European and Eurasian continent becomes a highway. And when the rivers end, when there is no more water, the Vikings do something that defies belief for its audacity. They carry the ships overland. Teams of men lift the vessels out of the water, drag them across land on logs as rollers, and drop them back into the next river system on the other side. A technique historians call portage. The Norse do it routinely across hundreds of kilometers, moving their entire fleet between river networks. Now draw that on a map. A ship starting in Birka, Sweden, deep in the Swedish interior, reaches the Baltic Sea. From the Baltic, it enters the Russian river system, south through Lake Ladoga, down through the Novgorod network, into the Volga, 2,300 miles south through the Russian interior to the Caspian Sea. And from the Caspian southern shore, caravan routes overland to Baghdad. This is not a war machine, this is a logistics network. But there is something else operating beneath the longship. Something geographic, something demographic, something that forces the decision. Scandinavia in 800 AD is a land of granite and ice. Less than 3% of its surface is arable farmland. England's arable land exceeds 25%. France's exceeds 30%. Scandinavia's interior is forest, mountain, and tundra, and its population is growing. Historians estimate the combined Scandinavian population in 800 AD at roughly 800,000 people, competing for a resource base that cannot expand. The younger sons of Norse chiefs face a choice: stay home on a shrinking inheritance, or leave. The question is not whether they will expand outward. The question is where and how. And this is where the two-part calculation begins, the calculation that explains everything about the Viking Age. But before you hear it, consider this. The Norse had been operating a commercial trading settlement called Birka since approximately 750 AD. That is 43 years before Lindisfarne. Before the first raid, before the first monastery burned. The trade network existed before the terror, and that sequence is not an accident. What comes next reveals the full architecture of the operation, the most precisely engineered commercial strategy of the medieval world, and almost no one saw it coming. Here is the question a Norse chief asks himself in 800 AD. The question no monk recorded, the question no chronicle asked, but the question the archaeological evidence answers with brutal clarity. Who do you raid, and who do you trade with? The answer, revealed across 2.5 centuries of Norse activity, is strikingly consistent. You raid the weak, you trade with the powerful. In the West, the Frankish Empire, England, Ireland, the Scottish coasts, wealthy. full of silver in church altars, gold in illuminated manuscripts, livestock, grain stores, and, critically, people. But politically fragmented. The Carolingian Empire is fracturing. Anglo-Saxon kingdoms fight each other constantly. No unified naval defense exists. The coastlines are exposed. These kingdoms are raid targets. Not because they are enemies, because they are soft. In the east, the Byzantine Empire, the Abbasid Caliphate of Baghdad, the two greatest powers on earth in 800 AD. Byzantine Constantinople commands the narrows between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. The Abbasid Caliphate controls Mesopotamia, Persia, Central Asia. Combined military strength, over 200,000 soldiers. Byzantine Greek fire can incinerate a fleet before it reaches shore. These are trade partners. Not because the Norse feel reverence for them, because attacking them would be suicide. The strategy writes itself. Raid the fragmented Atlantic kingdoms for portable wealth and slaves. Carry that wealth and those slaves east along the river routes to the markets that will pay for them. Silver flows back north. The cycle repeats. Consider what the Norse bring to Baghdad. From their western raids, slaves. The trade is so systematic, and the Norse so dominant in the supply chain, that the word the Latin world uses for enslaved people shifts permanently. In the 9th century, Latin scholars begin using the word sklavus, from sklaveni, the Slavs, because Norse traders supply so many Slavic people to the Mediterranean markets that their ethnic name becomes the word for the condition itself. The English word slave is a business record from the Viking Age. From their northern territories, luxury furs, sable, Arctic fox, marten. The northern forest is the world's only source, and the Norse control access completely. Also, Baltic amber, the world's only known source. Walrus ivory from the Arctic. Falcons prized by Islamic courts from North Africa to Central Asia. The Norse don't just trade these goods. They control the entire supply chain. No competitor operates the river routes. No other merchant fleet has the technology to move between the Arctic and the Persian Gulf. For 150 years, this is a monopoly with no meaningful competition. And the archaeological evidence makes this undeniable. Excavations at Birka, the Norse trading town on Björkö Island in Lake Mela, now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, produce objects that have no business being in 9th century Sweden. Byzantine silk, Arabic glass, weights calibrated to Middle Eastern commercial standards, and coins. Dirhams, silver coins minted in Baghdad, Samarkand, and Tashkent. Over 80,000 individual Arabic silver dirhams have been recovered from Swedish archaeological sites. Scholars estimate that between 350,000 and 400,000 silver dirhams moved north along the trade routes over the course of the Viking Age. An average of more than 2,000 coins per year flowing into Scandinavia. Every year, for a century and a half. This is the accounting record of a global commercial operation. And in 921 AD, the Abbasid Caliph sends a diplomat named Ahmad ibn Fadlan on a mission to the Volga Bulgars. Ibn Fadlan encounters a group of Norse traders camped on the river. He records their appearance, their customs, their rituals in extraordinary detail. His account is the most precise eyewitness description of Viking culture that survives. What he describes are not rampaging barbarians. He describes merchants, calculating, methodical, concerned with the weight of silver, conducting transactions with professional precision. He is watching CEOs. He just doesn't have the word for it. But there is a third revenue stream, the one that most perfectly illustrates the Viking business model in all its cold elegance. The one that requires no trading partners and no supply chains. Extortion. 845 AD spring, 120 Viking longships sail up the Seine River. They pass through Rouen. They sail 120 miles inland. They arrive at Paris during Holy Week, Easter Sunday. They do not sack the city immediately. They wait. They establish a camp, and they send a message to the Frankish king Charles the Bald. The message is simple: pay or burn. Charles assembles a defense force and divides it on both banks of the river. The Norse see the division. They attack one half. 111 prisoners are taken. They are hanged on an island in the middle of the Seine, in full view of the other half of the Frankish army, as a demonstration of what refusal costs. The surviving Frankish forces retreat. Charles the Bald pays 7,000 French livres. That is 2,570 kilograms, 5,670 pounds of gold and silver, loaded onto Norse ships, and the fleet sails home. Charles has just made the most expensive mistake in 9th century European history, not because he paid, but because the payment proved a principle that drives Norse strategy for the next 200 years. It is more profitable to collect than to destroy. Destruction is a one-time event. A burned monastery yields its treasure once, but a living king, terrified and willing to pay, yields tribute every time you return. Threatening to burn is more lucrative than actually burning. The Norse return to the Seine in 857. Charles pays again. They return in 876. Charles the Fat, his nephew, pays 5,000 pounds of silver. Each time, the lesson embeds deeper into European royal strategy. Pay the Northmen to go away. The English formalize the system entirely. They give it a name: Danegeld, the Dane tax. In 991 AD, following the Viking victory at the Battle of Maldon in Essex, King Ethelred pays 10,000 Roman pounds of silver, 3,300 kilograms, to buy peace. Then in 1007, Ethelred pays 36,000 Troy pounds of silver, 13,400 kilograms, to purchase 2 full years of being left alone. Not victory, 2 years of peace. In 1012, following the sack of Canterbury and the murder of its archbishop, the Norse demand 48,000 Troy pounds of silver, 17,900 kilograms, delivered in cash to a fleet that had done nothing except anchor off the coast and wait. Between 991 and 1013, England pays a total estimated at 134,000 pounds of silver to Norse forces, more than 60 million individual silver pennies extracted from the English economy, taxed from English peasants by English kings who had no choice but to hand it over. The Norse have invented the protection money economy. They have institutionalized extortion at a national scale, and the mechanism is self-reinforcing. Every payment makes the next demand more credible. Every successful tribute run makes the fleet larger. Every larger fleet makes resistance more impossible. This runs simultaneously with the Eastern trade network, filling Scandinavian storehouses with Islamic silver from the east, while extracting Christian silver from the west. The same commanders, the same ships. 2 revenue streams, 1 operation, and now something that no one could have predicted begins to happen. The tool that started as a weapon begins to build something permanent. Consider what the Viking trade routes leave behind. Along the Dnieper, the southern river route to Constantinople, Norse traders established checkpoints. A settlement here, a fortified trading post there, a toll station on a critical river bend. By 880 AD, a Norse commander named Oleg consolidates control over the route from Novgorod to Kiev. He makes Kiev his capital. His people, the Norse traders who dominate the eastern river network, are called the Rus. This is the origin of Russia. A Norse commercial operation expanded into sovereignty. In Ireland, the Norse established the first permanent urban settlements in Irish history. Dublin, Dublin, the Black Pool, founded as a Norse longship base in 841 AD. Waterford, Wexford, Limerick, Cork. Every major Irish port city begins as a Norse commercial installation. In France, a Norse chieftain named Rollo negotiates with the Frankish king in 911 AD. Rollo's fleet has been raiding the Seine Valley for years. The payment model has worked perfectly. But something more permanent is now on the table. The king offers land. Rollo accepts. The Norsemen settle in what will be called Normandy, the land of the Northmen. Within 3 generations, they speak French. Within 4 generations, one of their descendants, William, commands an army that crosses the English Channel. In 1066 AD, Vikings conquer England. Not as raiders this time, as the Norman ruling class. The architecture of medieval English law, its nobility, its land distribution system, all of it descends directly from men whose grandfathers collected Danegeld on the Seine. And in Constantinople, the Byzantine emperors make a decision. They hire them. The Varangian Guard, the elite personal bodyguard of the Byzantine Emperor, is composed entirely of Norse warriors. The same men who burned Lindisfarne now stand inside the palace of the most sophisticated empire on earth, guarding the person of the emperor himself. The Norse have not just traded across the known world. They have embedded themselves into the power structure of every major civilization they touched. From Baghdad's silver markets to the Byzantine imperial palace to the royal courts of France and England, Norse commanders occupy positions at the apex of every power center in the medieval world. And underneath all of it, the trade routes, still operating, still moving goods, still connecting the Arctic supply chains to Mediterranean and Middle Eastern demand centers. The routes the Norse cut through the Russian river system become, over centuries, the commercial arteries of Eastern Europe. The trading towns they establish, Novgorod, Smolensk, Kiev, become the cities around which Russia and Ukraine take shape. The commercial logic that drove a longship captain to portage across the Russian watershed in 850 AD still governs the geography of Eastern European trade over 1,000 years later. What began as an expansion driven by rocky soil and limited farmland, by 800,000 people competing for 3% of arable land, ended by redrawing the commercial and political map of half the known world. Not through ideology, not through religion, not through cultural mission or divine mandate, through calculation, through engineering, through the ruthless, systematic exploitation of every commercial and military advantage available to men willing to think at continental scale. And now the question that should be sitting uncomfortably in the back of your mind: if this operation ran for 250 years before the world understood it, what does that reveal about how monopolies actually work? Go back to that morning, June 8th, 793 AD, the island of Lindisfarne. The longships cut through the fog. The men climb the shore. What the monks see is fury. What they experience is terror. What they record is the end of safety, the beginning of a violent new age. But here is what the monks could not see, what the chronicles could not record, what 1,200 years of scholarship has slowly assembled from silver coins in Swedish soil, from Arabic manuscripts written on the Volga, from burial goods in Norwegian mounds. The commander standing on that beach is not furious. He is running a profit and loss calculation. The monastery has been identified, its defenses assessed, its wealth estimated. The timing, a dawn landing in early June, calm seas, high tide, chosen deliberately. This is not a raid. This is a market entry strategy. The monks dragged to the ships are not trophies. They are inventory. They will be transported east. Some will reach the slave markets of Baghdad, where an Arab merchant will pay for them in silver dirhams that will end up buried in Swedish soil, to be found by an archaeologist 11 centuries later. The burning, the screaming, the terror, all of it is real. None of it is accidental. The terror is the product. The terror is what makes the king reach for his treasury. The terror is what makes the next payment larger, and the payment after that larger still. This is the truth the Vikings understood, and the world they operated in could not admit for 250 years. Power, in its most essential form, does not announce itself as power. It announces itself as something more frightening and more primitive than a business plan. As chaos, as divine fury, as forces too overwhelming to analyze. Only from a distance, centuries of distance, and thousands of silver coins catalogued by steady hands in archaeological offices, can you see the machine behind the mask, the CEOs behind the axes, the spreadsheet behind the fire. The Norse did not run a global monopoly despite being barbarians. They ran a global monopoly by appearing to be barbarians. The terror was the brand, the raids were the marketing, and the silver, flowing north from Baghdad and west from London, filling storehouses in Birka and Hedeby and Kaupang, was always the point. Think about that. And then consider, in every era, in every geography, in every economic system since, the most effective monopolies have always hidden behind the image of something more primitive than a business plan. The question worth sitting with, long after this video ends, is this. What machines are operating today, in plain sight, that we are still calling something else? Drop your answer in the comments, because history, as it turns out, is always more honest than the present. If this changed how you think about the Viking Age, share it with someone who still believes it was all about the axes. And stay here, because what comes next makes the Vikings look like amateurs.